You know that I'm here for you, but I'm not here for you so that you can stay stuck. I'm here for you so that you can get better, so that you can grow.
Anger, pain, disappointment, it's all just a mask for hurt.
When you don't have parents that are capable of giving you what you need to become the parent that you needed. You need to cheer for yourself.
This is a chance to transform yourself so that when you walk in the door, you are who you are now, not who you used to be when you still lived at home. Listen up, because we could all use this particular advice. The holidays are here, Mel, and even though it's a time I should be feeling cheerful and festive, I'm full of anxiety over spending time with my toxic family. Every year it's the same thing. Inappropriate comments, questions that totally deplete me, and it makes me wonder if this is even my family. Can you please help? Signed, Claire. Claire, you shouldn't feel alone because so many people have anxiety about toxic relationships related to their families and how they have to confront them during the holidays. So here's the thing I want you to think about when it comes to the holidays. Holidays can be one of two things when you have toxic relationships with your family. It can either be a personal challenge or it can be a chance to have a personal transformation. And the personal transformation that I'm talking about is not changing your mother or your annoying older brother or your racist aunt. I'm talking about whether or not you have a personal transformation, because you can't fully get rid of toxic situations or toxic people, but you can transform how you behave when you're around those kinds of people. So the holidays can be a chance for you to practice boundaries, practice self-control, to be emotionally resilient and strong and not get triggered, and to also have the courage to express the new you, to express your true self. So if you left home a long time ago, you've grown as a person, you've changed, you've evolved, and then every time you go back home, you feel like you've stepped into a time warp and you're suddenly 8 years old again, this is a chance to transform yourself so that when you walk in the door, you are who you are now, not who you used to be when you still lived at home. And so there's a couple things that I want you to think about before you go home, before you have the interaction, so that you are prepared emotionally to make this a transformation for yourself personally. Number one, don't assume the old role that you used to play. So just because you're in your childhood home or you're with people that you know from your childhood, do not make the mistake of falling back into old patterns. Don't suddenly start acting like the youngest one again. If you're the youngest in your family, if you're always been dad's favorite and everybody hates that, stop playing into it. So there are things that we do that we don't even realize when we step into our childhood homes or around the people that we grew up with, where we slip right back into old patterns. Make sure you know what those are so that you have them in check for yourself. Number two, this is a huge one. Don't take the bait. This was advice that I got from my brother a long time ago. Don't take the bait. You know that there are relatives and friends from your past that just love to cast the guilt. They just love to cause issues. They're constantly casting like a fisherman, all kinds of things out there. And if you're the kind of person like I used to be, when somebody gets upset, you grab the bait and then you start trying to make it okay, and the next thing you know, you're arguing with somebody over something really stupid. Just don't take it. Don't let yourself get triggered. If somebody's casting the guilt, let them cast. Don't hit that lure. You know what I'm saying? They're welcome to say whatever they want to say. If you don't react, there's no issue. You don't have to worry about making sure that your mom or your dad doesn't say that stuff. Just don't react to it. And you'll be shocked at how the dynamic changes. You know, this is another piece of advice that my friend Danielle gave me today, and it comes from the Calm app. You can also, before you go into the situation, visualize a really busy road. Now, in a very busy road, there are people that are passengers in those cars, and there are people that are pedestrians on the sidewalk who are watching the cars go by. I want you to think about the dynamic in your family as cars zipping down the highway, right? Everybody's got all kinds of issues and conversations and kids and this and that, and people want attention, and there's all kinds of things racing by. Your role when you're around your family is to be a pedestrian on the sidewalk, watching it all go by. This is another form of not taking the bait. The last thing you want to do when your mom pulls the guilt train up is to climb on board and be a passenger on that ride, okay? You know what I'm saying? You're going to stay on the sidewalk. You're not going to take the bait. You're just going to watch the traffic as it speeds and whips by. Don't climb in when the guilt car pulls up, okay? Next thing, this has also been a major thing for me, empathy. Empathy is a superpower. My relationship with my mom changed dramatically for the better when I stopped judging her and I started thinking about what she must be feeling. Seriously, like if you've got somebody in your life that's angry, that says hurtful things, that's disappointed or upset, all of those things, anger, pain, disappointment, it's all just a mask for hurt. So any kind of toxic behavior that you're seeing in other people, unless it's some sort of narcissism personality disorder, for most normal human beings, if they're exhibiting bad behavior, it's literally just unexpressed hurt. That's all that it is. And a healthy dose of empathy, like thinking about how hard it was in the household where your parents grew up, or thinking about all the struggles that maybe one of your siblings who's really annoying because they take up all the energy, how many struggles they've faced, or thinking about how lonely your aunt is because your uncle's died. Thinking from a point of view that's empathetic, it's amazing. It's very personally transforming, because it helps you set boundaries, it helps you not get triggered, it helps you to be more emotionally mature and resilient, and it will help you make these holidays an opportunity for personal transformation instead of a massive personal challenge.
You should not let a toxic coworker ruin your job, ruin your day, ruin your meeting, and we're going to talk about the 3 research-backed things that you need to do if you're dealing with a toxic coworker that is making you not enjoy your job or not enjoy being around them, whatever it is. Toxic coworkers are a major problem. They're a major problem for team productivity. They destroy culture. They impact how much gets done. They certainly probably impact your enjoyment at work. And there are things that you can do based on the research in order to address and deal with a toxic coworker, and also to define the boundaries that you need to have so that you're not impacted by them. One of the nice things about being at work is that if the person is toxic, oftentimes you've got more structure around the relationship because you have a boss, because you have HR, because you have team dynamics to help you coach, nudge, and I guess inspire in some ways, or inform this person that the behavior really isn't working for the team or for you. And I'm going to give you the 3 pieces of research and advice that come from Harvard Business School and some researchers there that will really work. So here's a question from Natasha. I absolutely love my job, but my company recently hired a new employee from my department who is awful. Awful. And Natasha even wrote in all caps that she's awful. She doesn't take responsibility for any of her mistakes. She takes her anger out on her coworkers and doesn't seem to have respect for anyone in the company. She is unbearable to work with. So, Natasha, if you've got somebody that's taking her anger out on coworkers and she has no respect for people, that would be unbearable, and I'm glad you're writing this. And so I want to draw a line in the sand. So first of all, there are certain behaviors that go way beyond being toxic. Sexual harassment, harassment of any kind, stealing, immoral behavior. Those are things that not only you shouldn't deal with, but HR needs to know about them. And so if that's what's going on with a coworker, you need to get your boss and you need to get HR involved, because that's a whole different level than just toxicity. Toxicity is referring to what Natasha's talking about, which is the behavior patterns in people that create a negative space for everybody else. And those can include gossiping. If you've got a coworker that's constantly fluttering by your office and wants to gossip about what's going on at work, that's a toxic person. If you got somebody that backstabs people, if you've got somebody that interrupts and dominates the corporate culture or meetings, that can become a toxic situation for culture. If you've got somebody that's constantly raising their hand or agreeing to do things, but guess what? They never follow through. Yours truly? I used to be that kind of person. I used to be the yes woman. And then I just wouldn't do anything. Like, honestly, I was literally the world's worst employee at a number of my jobs. I was the toxic person. I was also miserable, which is why I was doing that. And that's a very important point. A lot of people that act out at work are miserable. And so I think one of the things, before I tell you the three things, oh no, there we are. We just lost our signal. Oh no. Tracy, are we okay? I want to make sure that we still have our friends on Instagram or on Facebook and YouTube. Are we still okay?
Nothing from her yet. I'll let you know.
You might want to call her. So,
No, she's texting. Okay.
we're okay?
We're good.
Okay, it said lost signal. Okay, great. So I also want to put that into the mix of the three things I'm about to share with you in terms of the advice, because I think it's really important for your personal boundaries to use what I always talk about, which is empathy. Understand that anybody that's acting out, it doesn't excuse the behavior, it explains it. And it also allows you to separate yourself emotionally. That person is likely miserable. That person has a bad life, which is why they treat people badly. And so if you can start to really use empathy to put it on them versus making it that they are doing something to you, that can help you from getting hooked emotionally. However, even when you distance yourself, you still have to do something about it. And so here's what you're going to do. According to Harvard Business Review, the single most important factor in the success of a team, the success of a culture, is the quality of the relationships between colleagues at work, between the people on a team. And Natasha, you know this because you're experiencing somebody who's toxic. She takes her anger out on you. She doesn't take responsibility for her mistakes. She's disrespectful to people. And of course, this is going to create a horrible environment to work in. So here are three things that you can do immediately in order to fix this situation. Number one, and you're gonna hate this. Number one, you have to talk to them. Hinting is not allowed, and here's why. Based on the research, the majority of people lack self-awareness at work. You get that? The person who's disrespecting you likely doesn't even know what they're doing. The person who's taking his or her anger out on you likely doesn't know how it's impacting you. You see, when people do this, when they have these kind of toxic patterns, they've been getting away with them for so long because nobody has had the courage to cross-check them verbally on it. And that's where you come in. Lucky you. You're in their life because your purpose in their life is to be the one person that has the courage to actually sit down and have a candid conversation about it. So what are you going to do? How do you have that candid conversation? First of all, try not to make them wrong. Try not to come in and shame them and tell them all the horrible things they're doing, because you'll immediately create a situation where they're defensive. And if the research bears out from Harvard Business School and they actually had no idea that they were doing it, they might get defensive. The better way to do it, the more effective way to do it, is to explain how their behavior impacts you. And when you do that, most people are mortified because most people are venting or are disrespectful and they're not even thinking about the impact it has because nobody's ever told them. And the other thing that's really important when you have this conversation is come up with specific examples. So if you've got this toxic coworker, Natasha, for the next couple days, write down very specific examples of exactly what happened, exactly what this toxic coworker did, and exactly how it made you feel. And the reason why you want to do specific actions is because most of us are so unaware that just generally saying you're very disrespectful and it makes me feel demoralized. It makes me not want to come into work. It makes me not want to be your colleague. It makes me not want to volunteer to help you. Most of us just feel like horrible when something like that is told to us, but we don't really know how to check the behavior. But if you say, oh, well, we were in a meeting and I shared an idea and you said, well, that's really not going to work. I think it's a waste of our time to do that. Kind of stupid. When you demean my ideas publicly, it makes me not want to speak. You're talking down to me. Whoa, if I hear it that way, wow. Now I know what we're talking about. And here's the other thing. You can actually give them some advice. So the next time we're in a meeting, if you disagree with something that I have to say, it's fine to disagree, but you don't have to make it personal. And that will give them the training that they need. And, that's the hardest thing to do. Have the conversation. The second thing. Oh, and here's one final thing when you ask the feedback. You might want to ask them if they have any feedback for you, because then it becomes more of a dialogue and they may have feedback for you. For all you know, you're behaving in a way that's triggering them to disrespect you. You don't know. And unless you have the candid conversation, which you're going to have to be brave and courageous to do, nothing's going to change. Okay, so candid conversation. Number 2, you got to raise your own game. Got to raise your own game. And so what is the game that you play at work? You got to get out of the head that it's all about you. The best team members are always thinking about how to make the team better. The best team members are loyal to the team. The best people to work with are the ones that are in it together. And so in order for you to get your toxic colleague to shift behavior, you got to model it. And here's the interesting thing about the research. When people are working with coworkers or on a team where people collaborate and where you have honest conversations, it creates what we call psychological safety, which basically just means I feel safe working with you. I know that if I come to you with feedback, you'll listen. I know that if I tell you how your behavior is impacting me, you'll actually care. I know that if you need help, you'll come to me, and I know if I need help, I can come to you. That's what psychological safety means. You're a safe person and hopefully a fun person to work with. So you've got to model that. That means you got to ask for support. That means you got to have direct conversations, and it means you got to support your team members too. And do you realize that when you work with other people that do this, team members are 35 times more likely to show visible commitment to your success. And they're 47% more likely when you model it to work hard to build and maintain your trust. So don't ever get resigned in thinking that the way that you behave won't impact how somebody else is behaving around you. Another thing that you absolutely have to do is you have to go and talk to your boss if the conversation continues. You have to. And the reason why is it takes just one person to ruin a culture. It takes just one person to ruin a team dynamic at work. I keep this card right here on my bathroom sink. And it's a card that says, "So proud of who you are." It's from my mom and my dad, and they sent it to me when my talk show was canceled. Mom writes, "Continue on." I love the exclamation point. You can tell based on her cursive, can't you, that she means it. And look at that. Look at the water stain on this because it's been sitting there for 6 months. Mel, be yourself and good things will happen. Love, Dad. And look at the curly Q. That's amazing, Dad. And it's so awesome when you have parents that cheer for you. It's just incredible to know that you have someone who's always in your corner. And I feel so lucky because I have parents that have cheered for me my whole life. There's absolutely no doubt it's a lot easier when you have parents cheering for you. And I want to talk to those of you who don't have parents cheering for you. First things first, you should know you deserve to, but for whatever reason, you have parents who are not capable of giving you what you need. And so a couple things. When you don't have parents that are capable of giving you what you need to become the parent that you needed. You need to cheer for yourself. And I also want you to know you're not alone. You're not alone because you also got me. I am proud of you. I'm cheering for you. That's why I'm here every single day on social media to inspire and empower you to find the courage to take control of your life one day at a time.
So this is why I call it the 6-month rule. For 6 months, absolutely listen to somebody. Give them all the advice, be the shoulder they cry on, let them bitch and kvetch and all that stuff to you all day long. But if after 6 months your friend is still complaining and doing nothing, and is still complaining and acting helpless, is still stuck in that rut and refusing to take your advice, it's really important that you draw some boundaries. And it's important for you, it's also important for your friend. So here's what you're gonna do. You're basically just gonna say, look, I love you. I know you're going through a hard time, but I will no longer listen to you complain about it. And the reason why is because it's not helping you, and it's really starting to make me sad that you're still this stuck and you're not taking action. Let's definitely hang out. Let's spend a lot of time together, but we're not allowed to talk about this anymore. The second you start taking action to fix the situation, we can talk about it again. And you know that I'm here for you, but I'm not here for you so that you can stay stuck. I'm here for you so that you can get better, so that you can grow. Now, I had a friend about a decade ago who was in a situation where she had just been broken up with. I think she was struggling with an eating disorder because she was getting scary thin. And for 6 months straight, she would complain about her body, complain about how depressed she was, but she refused to see a therapist. She refused to seek counseling. She refused to read the books that I gave her. And I finally said to her, I'm really, really worried about you because this situation is scaring me and you're not doing anything. And so we're no longer allowed to talk about this unless you're gonna go get some professional help or you're gonna start taking some small steps to get healthy again. She stopped talking to me, completely stopped talking to me. Do you know, she reached out to me in Facebook, like 2 years ago, and told me that that was one of the most confronting conversations, and it actually was the wake-up call that she needed. And right after the conversation where I said, you're scaring me and we're not gonna talk about this anymore unless you start to take steps, her mother had a very similar conversation and she started to get the help that she needed. So you never know what a difference it's gonna make in the person's life when you're willing to be that honest. You also need to be doing that for your own sanity and your own well-being. So 6-month rule, when friends are depressed, when friends are stuck, when friends are going through a really tough time, absolutely positively be there. Let them cry, let them complain, let them suck the energy out of everything because they need you. Provide all the help and resources you can, and then after 6 months, if this is starting to drain you and if they're doing absolutely nothing to get better, that's when you draw the line.
Look, if the toxic person is online or it's an acquaintance from a long time ago, that's easy. Just hit delete, because there's absolutely no reason why you should tolerate anything but positive, hilarious, and inspiring content in your social media feeds. In fact, I personally unfollow people all week long. And I've even noticed that as my goals and my priorities change, the accounts that I follow change too. But let's talk about the harder issue. How do you unfriend someone in real life? First of all, if it's a friend or family member that's starting to rub you the wrong way, don't be an ass. Don't ghost people. Don't ignore them. That behavior is not only cowardly, it is also toxic on your part too. When you have somebody in your life that is toxic, it's an opportunity for you to grow. Because this person didn't start off toxic, they probably turned toxic. When somebody turns toxic, it almost always is a sign that there's something either wrong with them or there's something going on with you. So before you unfriend someone in real life, I want you to stop and make sure you've done your part of being a friend. Now, there's a simple 2-part test that you should give yourself before you unfriend somebody. Here's what you do. Step 1, ask yourself, what emotion comes up for me? Worry and concern? Or is it resentment and annoyance? If it's worry and concern that comes up for you when you think about this person, very simple answer on your hands here. Pick up the phone and just reach out. But if what's coming up for you when you think about this person is resentment and annoyance, it's time for you to go a little deeper to step 2. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, why are you annoyed? Why do you resent this person? And look, if you're annoyed because they're a shallow, backstabbing and their behavior is violating your values and boundaries, easy, unfriend. However, even the in your life can teach you something. If you look a little deeper when you ask yourself the question, why am I so annoyed by this person? There's almost always something going on with you. Because there's a lot of jerks in the world that you're going to bump into that don't trigger you at all. But there's something about this person that's striking something deeper that you need to deal with. You're triggered. And a trigger is always an opportunity for you to heal something. Unfriending somebody is the easy way out, but when you do it, you miss out on a powerful moment of self-reflection and growth. The fact is, the negativity that you're feeling, the resentment, the annoyance, the judgment, it's toxic inside of you. And so giving yourself a moment before you unfriend, that is powerful. Because the negativity you feel, the resentment, the toxicity, it disappears when you stop yourself from throwing in the towel and you choose to throw yourself and your friend a lifeline instead. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.